Hi, Les Picker here with Les Picker Fine Art Photography. We are on the gorgeous island of Maui right now in the Hawaiian Islands. We're in the northernmost section of Maui, and for those of you who doubt whether there are pristine and untouched areas of the Hawaiian Islands left, we're going to see a pan of this area in just a couple minutes, and you'll see what I mean. But I thought we'd come here today, which is around mile marker 40 on Route 30, way north of Kaanapali, to see. I want to do an instructional video because I get asked a lot about how to do a pano shot, how to do a panoramic image. So I have my equipment set up, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Okay folks, I hope you'll forgive me. I'm going to put on my sunglasses during this video clip because the sun is like directly over me and I don't want to be squinting in your face as we do this. So today, as I said, we're talking about how to do a multi-row pano. So these are panos that you would do, panoramic photos that you would do when you want to really enlarge something to a huge size. Let's say you want to put up a wall mural or something that might be 40 inches by 60 inches. You don't want to enlarge a single shot because as you enlarge it, the image will look pixelated and it won't represent your finest work. So we're going to do a multi-row pano, and what I always tell my students in my workshops is pre-planning is the key to proper execution. In the case of panos, it depends on several items. So let's go through them one at a time so you get a feel for what I am talking about. First is, use a sturdy tripod when you're shooting a pano. That's pretty critical. In this case, I'm using a Gitzo 3541 with a Really Right Stuff BH55 ball head on top. Now, I'm not saying you have to use that, but these two are quality products. I personally use the whole line of Really Right Stuff products and help send probably half their kids to college with that. They're expensive, but they're beautifully machined, high quality products that I think you can keep for a lifetime. So on top of my ball head, it has a quick release bracket right here, and I'm going to put on my rail, as these things are called, and I'll torque it down with the quick release bracket. There it is, nice and stable. I have on it mounted my Nikon D800. Choice of your camera is yours. And I have a 7200 Nikkor 2.8 telephoto lens on here because when I'm shooting pano, and this is another point to keep in mind, is you want to have as many shots as you can and put all those lush pixels together. In this case, 38 pixels per shot. Of course, you're going to have some overlap between the shots, so it's not full 38 pixels, but the point is that you're going to get lots of pixels if you shoot left to right. You might have, if you shoot at 200 millimeters, you might have 10, 15 shots left to right. You're going to have several rows, as you see here. You're going to be able to tilt your camera first to do a row up high, then maybe 2 rows in the middle and 1 row down low, and you will have actually quite a detailed and beautiful shot. So the second thing that I wanted to just emphasize is that you've got to get this whole thing leveled. Make sure that your camera is leveled. And what I do is I have a Really Right Stuff leveling base that I installed on this camera, on this tripod. It allows me to first level the tripod without having to move the legs up and go around in contortions and try and get this thing to be perfectly level. This levels it by a twist of my wrist, and then I can just, holding on to it, I can twist this, as you can see, and get it level. And I have a spirit level here that tells me when it's level. And then, using the ball head itself, I can make sure that the area on top of the ball head is level. So now, once I start my pano, I know that I'm level in every which way. And of course, I always check it. I will go like this, loosen my pan screw and go like this and check my level and make sure that all the way through my pan I am totally level. So those are two things: good solid tripod and level your tripod. Prior to doing any of this, you should make sure that you have figured out the parallax point, or what is known as the nodal point. They're slightly different, but good enough for government work. The parallax point of your lens. Now, if you're using a prime lens, let's say using 135 prime lens or 200 prime lens, then you just have to do one measurement. But if you're going to use a zoom lens, like I have on this camera, a 7200 zoom, what I did is I set up the parallax point so I know it at 70, 135, and at I set it up at 70, 105, 135, and 200. So I know any of those distances, I know exactly where that parallax point is, and that means simply that by moving my camera forward or back along this top rail, I will be shooting so that I don't have to worry about parallax, meaning that there's going to be significant distortion in your image. That makes it a whole lot easier to post-process. Now, you can post-process some of that parallax away in Photoshop, but I'm one who believes capturing it in the field, in your camera, as best you can, is the best way to do it, and then you can just sort of polish it up later in your post-processing. Another thing that you want to make sure of is that you start your pano and end your pano in the same place. I can't emphasize that enough, because we're all human. Once you get into the practice of shoot, turn, shoot, turn, shoot, turn, it's easy to forget where you started from, and where you ended, and especially when you change the angle here from here to here. It's difficult to remember where you started and ended, and then your images will not match up in post-process stitching, in whatever stitching program you use, like PT GUI or Photoshop itself. They won't match up, and it gives you a lot of wasted pixels, and as those pixels, those images that you took, don't match up with ones above and below it. So I have a trick with this that I use that I want to emphasize, and that is I always look through the camera and set up my pano, but I also take a look on the base of the tripod of this ball head. I've got there are little notches that come with it, machined in there, engravings that tell you exactly how many degrees you're moving with each slight turn of the pan. So I note where I start, I note where the pano ends, so that when I go back to start the next row, I just go right back to that place, it's exact, and then I start my next series. Another thing people ask me is, should I overlap a third, a half? It really doesn't make much of a difference. If you overlap a half, you're really taking a lot of extra shots. I find the third works well, and I either do that visually. I look at the camera and then I move it in thirds as I'm looking through the viewfinder, or better yet, I look at my gradations here and I say to myself, if I move with a 1/3 overlap, I just moved 5 degrees of gradation, and once I know that, I can just go through it and click, 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 and get my pano taken without even having to look through the viewfinder. In fact, most of the time I lock down the eyepiece in my panos, and I just use this by turning it according to the gradations on the ball head. Okay, so those are some key points. Another thing you'll notice on here is that I have my camera strap off, and that is because usually where I shoot, it's kind of windy. You'll probably be shooting panos on a mountaintop or in a field, and with that kind of wind, you don't want your camera strap swaying and causing motion in your camera. I also use a cable release, and that's critical too because I want to make sure that my finger doesn't create camera shake. But I also use mirror lockup. So for every time I press the camera, I'm going to have two sounds, if you will. It's going to click to open the mirror and then click to release the shutter. I give it a second for that mirror to stop vibrating, then I click the shutter and that photo's taken. One last item before we take off here is make sure when you do your pano to take more than you think you will need. Start further to the left and further to the right. Start higher than you think you'll need and lower than you think you need, because invariably you're going to want to trim that photo, and to do that you need extra room, if you will. Alright, so we're set up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to pano a scene in this moorish area, as I call it. Again, spectacular. If you look over to the left, to my left, your right, we've got the ocean behind us with waves crashing down below. You might want to zoom in to show that, if you can get that in the frame. And then we've got some gorgeous stones. And then some beautiful golden grasses all around and lush greenery. So I'm kind of excited and eager to get going, and wish me luck. I'll show you online what the ultimate pano, what the pano from here ultimately looks like. I'm not claiming it's the ultimate pano, of course. All right, with that, let's get going. One more note. People often ask me what this is that I carry around my neck constantly, and this is a perfect place to exhibit how it works. This is a Hoodman loop, and it's sold by hoodman.com. Again, I have no interest in those, no financial interest or relationship with Hoodman or with Really Right Stuff, but what I use this constantly, and what it does is after I take my shot and I want to analyze it, especially with sun out behind you, in front of you, to the side of you, it's hard to see that screen. And I do wear glasses also. So what I do is I just put this loop on. It covers that screen entirely. It's made to cover the Canon, Nikon, Pentax, Olympus screens. And you just look in here. It's got a way to focus, to find focus, and it shuts out all the light around it. It really works quite well. So again, you put this on here and you focus, and then that's it. When I'm done, I just let it drop, and then I'm on to the next picture. I can take a look at it again. So it's something I would recommend. It's, I think, like a $70 item, but it'll pay for itself many times over. Okay. Note how I'm just going by gradations and not even looking through the viewfinder. And if you look here, you see the viewfinder is closed. The eyepiece is locked, closed rather. Now I'm coming back here to my starting point, which I've set up as, if you can come down here, and look at these gradations here. I'm starting at marker 5, and I will be going all the way around to 75. So it's a lot of shots, but I think it'll be worth it. Now I'm going to set the next row, and to do that I'm going to go lower my camera about, again, to cover about a third of what I did before. And you don't want to change your focus much at all, if anything. So now I'm going to take a test shot. I'm going to close my eyepiece again, take a test shot. Just make sure that it's about the same density as I had before, and now I'm ready. Put on my glasses, and now, as you can see, I'm just going to loosen this panning knob, and I'm going to go from 5 to 10, lock down, mirror up, shoot. Release the pan head, move it, lock it down, release the mirror, lock the mirror up, release it. Again, move it 5 degrees, mirror up, shoot. And I'll keep that up all the way throughout this pan. And basically that's all there is to it. Make sure that your exposure is correct for your shots, and then you're pretty well set. Good luck.